AI is something that is going to change the face of how companies do business.
I see a lot of companies that started before AI was so prevalent, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I integrate? If you get really proficient at using AI and the different AI tools to be better, faster, more creative at your job, and I don't, differentiator.
It's very good to meet you, see you, spend time with you, reconnect. Uh, I am Michelle Haynes. I'm the VP of Business Development here at In Time Tech, and I'm also General Manager of our services business. But you know all these things about me. I just want to make sure our audience has an understanding of who we are, why we're here.
Even without stalking you on LinkedIn, I know all those
I
things about you.
did my homework. I feel like any good podcast host needs to do some homework. And I learned some things about you. But
Thanks,
please,
LinkedIn. Thanks.
thank you, LinkedIn. But please do introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Tiam Rastegar. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Trailhead. Essentially, we are a public-private partnership in the form of a nonprofit, and we are a startup incubator and accelerator here in Boise. Been operating for 10 years.
Beautiful. I love Trailhead.
I do too.
You've been there 8 years?
Going on 8.
I'm rounding up.
Going on 8.
Okay.
You know, there's this thing where if you work for a nonprofit for 10 years and you make your student loan payments on time for those 10 years, so 120 of them, they forgive the rest of your student loans. Not saying that that's my angle
What?
here.
But it's a benefit.
Yeah, you're looking out there, 8 years, 2 more to go. But yeah, it's been quite the journey. Time has really flown by. And just Michelle sitting here is weird and it's euphoric and nostalgic. And you kind of started touching on my time at PKG.
Yes.
It was my first job out of college back in 2005. I did an internship here. And when I say here,
God
literally
bless internships.
in this, thank you, right?
Right?
Now, at the time, Boise State didn't require internships.
So you were just going for the extra
I was
credit.
a trailblazer. I needed the credit to graduate.
Okay.
There's another story that I'll spare
I
you.
was going to say,
but
high achiever.
I got the credit to graduate. Ended up staying on at PKG, which in hindsight was the most amazing launch pad for my career, if you want to call it that. Matter of fact, my uncle started PKG. 2 of my uncles did.
You beat me to it. I was just going to say, so the tie
Yeah.
into PKG, because it all comes down to who do you know?
Who do you know? And it gets even more coincidental. My uncles, in the 70s, they studied at a university in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Iran. They're from Iran. They did a 2-3 year exchange with the U.S. and then post-revolution and war with Iraq, they moved here. And my uncles started PKG in this very building. They built this building for that purpose. And for me, it was, working with family has its pros and cons.
Yeah, of course.
The reason my family and so I was born in Iran, and then we fled in '84 to Germany, where I grew up as an asylum-seeking war refugee. And then in 2000...
How old were you at that time?
I was 18 months old when we got there. This was 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do any of the fleeing. I was just along for the ride.
Got it.
And it didn't seem like we were fleeing a war to me, because I was just a little baby toddler. And it was fun because, we got to Germany and we lived in a camp.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to like a shelter, I guess you'd call it. And I just made a ton of friends from all over the world.
The community must have been so strong.
The kids were just playing with each other. We were all sharing food to mask sort of the trauma and the stress that our parents were going through.
Of course.
And they shielded us from that. And so I'm telling you this because, from Iran to Germany to the United States, in 2000, my dad told me, hey, I got a job with my cousin in Boise, Idaho. We're moving to America. And I'm like waiting for the punchline so we can laugh together. And there was none. I was
No
like,
punchline.
This is
It's
real.
happening.
It's happening. So my dad actually got a job with him in this building in 2000, which is why I moved to the States. And believe it or not, this was my dad's office. We're sitting in it right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was in that corner over there. This was accounting at PKG. And so like major nostalgic moment right now.
Yeah. As you're sharing your story, reflecting on your past,
And
thinking
now
of
I'm
your
here
family.
in the same building.
Yeah.
So that's how we came to the US. It was through job placement, and I came along as a international student on a F1 visa. Went to Centennial for my senior year, which was a riot. And when I graduated, I went back because that was the deal with my parents. Get your high school diploma, turn 18, do whatever you want. And I had threatened them all. I'm going back to Frankfurt. I'm going back to Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Also, Boise 25 years ago was a different city.
It wasn't what it is today.
It wasn't what it is
By any
today.
means.
And it took me some time to appreciate it then. But long story short, yeah, I went back to Germany with my high school diploma, went to Goethe University in Frankfurt, and they laughed me out of the room because they don't accept U.S. high school diplomas there.
Wow.
It's a lot
They
harder.
don't?
They don't. It takes 13 years there to get your diploma,
Wow.
and it's really difficult. And so, yeah, I was laughed out of the room. This is before 9/11. I'm 18 by myself in Frankfurt. My parents are here in Boise. So I just did what every somewhat responsible 18-year-old would do. I walked straight to the U.S. Embassy right
Mhm.
after getting rejected. They're close to Goethe University, and the embassy aren't too far.
Mhm.
And yeah, I walked in and immediately, didn't have to take a number, didn't have to schedule anything online. This is in 2000. Got right there, front of the line, and talked to someone, and it's like, hey, I need to go back to Boise. I want to apply to go to Boise State. The guy
Mhm.
was like, Boise?
Where is
Where's
Boise?
Boise?
Is that city in Iowa?
He didn't even go that far. He just kept going, where's Boise? And at the time, I didn't
Boise.
want to correct him and say it was Boise because I needed his help.
Yeah.
But
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
right. But in the back, there was a person in the back who kept obviously was overhearing our conversation, and he just got up at one. He's like, "You're from Boise? The guys with the blue turf?"
No way.
I was like, "Jackpot."
Recognizable.
It's like, yes, we're the
I'm
guys
with
with the
that
blue
guy.
turf. And he came up, and they helped me. No kidding. I had a 4-year visa in my passport about 3 weeks later and came back to the US. Went to Boise State, did my international business undergrad and political science minor. Met my wife. She was an artist. I was a business major. Opposites attract.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
The yin to each other's yang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now ask her.
Symmetry.
It may not be so fantastic, but knock on wood, we're going on 20 years. So
Congratulations.
that's how I ended up staying in Boise. I got married and I fell in love with this place. And yeah, the rest is history. My kids are born here. This is home. My parents are still here.
Mhm.
My uncle has unfortunately passed away. The one who owned PKG, his brother, who was a co-founder, is still with us.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, being here it's nostalgic, and it's quite the legacy to try to unpack on a podcast.
Right. It's full circle. And I was sharing with you before this started, Emily, who's behind the scenes, really putting together the structure for you and I to have this conversation. She shared, here's kind of what we're thinking as an objective for the conversation and what we want to create. And I couldn't help myself. I'm like, Emily, do you know that Tiam used to work here? Like, this was his family's business in this building. And it just took us down a whole different track. But I also feel like it's incredibly relevant for what we are here and what brings us here to explore and talk about, which is, I really feel that the evolution of this community,
Mm.
specifically around innovation and how things change and how people change and how, as we transform, the businesses around us transform. So there's no better way to dig into the conversation than looking at, where did it start for you?
Mm.
And how did it come to be what it is? And then looking at how you are now a source in the community for a lot of people to find their start and to make those connections. So not only do you have roots here, but you've been at Trailhead now for, I'm going to round up again, 8 years.
Round it up.
It's going to be 10 before you know it. What kind of changes have you noticed the most?
Oh gosh.
And you can go Boise, or you can go just Trailhead. Either one.
Good, a good transition. I think Boise and Trailhead, if we put it in the context of evolution, there's a strong tie. Um, when I first came to Boise in 2000, I came from I lived in a fairly small town that was a suburb of Frankfurt, which is a huge city. Probably that region, if it was its own country, oh my bad, would
No,
have
you're
been.
good.
That region is probably the fifth or sixth largest economy in the world.
Wow.
Very vibrant. European Central Bank is in Frankfurt. The only European stock exchange is in Frankfurt. All the bank headquarters are there.
So it's a real hub.
It's a real hub. Always has been since the Roman times. I digress. The Romans built the Paul's Church in Frankfurt, where they, before Frankfurt was a city, where the Romans crowned the emperors.
Okay.
And because they crowned emperors, the emperors would bring their entourage every time they get crowned. And that led to weddings, that led to bartering, that led to the invention of paper money, stock exchange, because these nations didn't have foreign currency exchange with each other.
Okay, I had no idea.
So Frankfurt's history
just
is steeped in
skipped
commerce.
over this in history
It's
class,
commerce.
apparently.
It's a commerce city. It's very fast paced. It's very aggressive. Coming to Boise, it was like, I was on the freeway going 120 miles an hour and someone just slams on the brakes, right? And also, I was 17 at the time. You care about different things. And so it felt like the hinterlands, and I will say this, I guess I just say this. But the way it has changed and evolved, again, about 14 years at PKG, and grew up as a professional really here in this very building. They put a lot of trust in me. They built custom human-machine interfaces for airplanes, medical devices, industrial applications, defense applications.
And talk about innovation, right?
Crazy. At the time, I didn't realize, because the industries were highly regulated, so you don't get to try new things because people's lives depend on your product.
Yes.
Literally.
I can say it was a shock to me because when we bought the building, everything was locked down. So for a time, we had worked out more of an agreement where we purchased the building.
I remember
but
that.
they were renting back from us for a time because, just the effort to lift and shift the equipment, the processes, everything was extraordinary. So we occupied just this front office space. And a lot of the hallways that lead from the front doors to the back, they didn't even exist. So everything was key card, badged, very secure.
And that's what I was used to.
Yeah.
From day one.
Yeah.
We were ITAR registered, and we complied with military standards for products. So yeah, everything was on lockdown. But I didn't know any different. But within those constraints of, don't try new technologies. Everything is on lockdown. Don't share. Don't collaborate.
Such a strange mindset. Required, but strange.
It's a very, constrained environment. But within that, PKG had really a foothold in membrane switches. So they kind of switched us on your microwave. And they found a way to print dielectric ink on flexible circuits. So in other words, like a firm circuit board,
but flexible.
But on a sheet of polyester.
Wow.
And these are like electrical traces of circuits. And they were able to design them in such a way that you could put them in an autoclave. You could steam clean them at high temperatures. You could literally drive over a Zoll defibrillator with a tank, because we built this defibrillator for the Marines. And that's how they tested these defibrillators in the field. And it still worked. So our roots really came from Micron and HP, which is part of the story here. I think the bedrock of early innovators in Boise sort of set the stage for PKG. So a lot of we call them business unit managers, bums, which is kind of funny. My 3 bums.
We should come up with a different.
No, it was great. I ran with it in the time because no one understood. Well, at least they said it, didn't think of it. But my 3 bums were Micron, Jabil, and HP executives, who then I learned from. and who really elevated PKG. And then, you're talking about the time when we moved. That's really when I first met Jeet. I remember Jeet showing up here at this building. I had no idea we're gonna sell the building, sublease it. I was in sales and program management, like
Yeah.
this other stuff.
So is it just a different conversation happening in a
Oh
different part of
yeah,
the
oh yeah. I
organization?
just realized there's a guy showed up without a badge, and instantly,
Like, what's going
what's
on?
going on? Red flags, like you're not supposed to be here. It's okay. It's okay. We bought this building. I was like, oh, okay,
Oh.
yeah. I may have spoken too soon.
Mm.
But we actually printed uh, two. Well, I know it's different now, but just down the hallway, we had this giant oven. That's what you're talking about. That you guys had to knock down a wall to
Yes.
remove the thing.
Yes.
And we had screen printing here. We also did graphic overlays. Eventually our customers were like, hey, this graphic overlay that you ship us and you slap it on this box, call it a defibrillator. Can you just build the whole box? So we went from
Yeah.
design engineering expertise to then contract design manufacturing
Mm.
because of this expertise we had through Jabil and HP, through their employees.
Yes.
And then that led to, a shift in business model. And for good or for bad, we still, incorporated the product that we designed and built, but then we integrated it into a greater box build, which we didn't have a whole lot of design control over.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, our business grew. We moved actually next door, just across the parking lot. And then we're on the second floor there. And then eventually moved out of this building completely into next door. And then we built our own building on Pine Street next to Blue Cross there.
Yes.
And we operated out of there for another, I think, 7 or 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, to me, the first wave of change that I saw in the valley. Because that street, there was no roundabout. Now there's 2, which I know sounds like no big deal. But in
It's a
Boise,
big
Idaho,
deal.
in 2006,
That's a hot topic in our community.
let me just put it this way. We would stand there with our coffee and just watch people take the roundabout because it was entertaining. Because no one has ever seen one before.
I mean, I have kids. We still do that every now and then.
Right?
Maybe when the kids are not in the car also, just depending.
So anyways, yeah, the development also coincided with Idaho Technology Council just launched. And Jay Larson was at PKG, and I remember he had this poster of the tech universe, the Boise Tech
love
Universe.
that
poster, I know it's at Trailhead. You would have to fight me tooth and nail. I'll never give it up because I think it's like the only one, and it's framed.
It came up in a conversation I had here with someone last week. We were talking about that poster
I'll
at
miss you
Trailhead,
for it.
and I'll wrestle you for it. We were talking about how interesting it would be to see a 2.0 of that.
Yeah, I've talked to many people about the 2.0. I think we need it. It's a Herculean effort because essentially we haven't updated this map in 25 years.
So
And a
much
lot has happened. I can probably not speak for, but document the last 8, but that's still a 12-year gap.
Where so many things happened.
It needs to be done.
Yeah.
It was done at the time by actually a professor of entrepreneurship who no longer lives here. So it had an academic piece to it because she did the research and it was really hard. But right around the time when PKG built that building on Pine Street, Blue Cross had their headquarters there on the corner of Pine and Eagle. And Jay came and pitched us this whole medical corridor vision for that whole street, Pine from Eagle down to Meridian.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the first exposure I had. I was like, there's an ecosystem here. Like, it's not just us. Like, yeah, Blue Cross, they're in insurance, but it's medical.
Mm-hmm.
We're medical. And then the cherry on top was when, I think a year later, Sensi built their giant campus next to ours. Like, we thought we were pretty cool.
Yeah.
3-story building. Posh, looks nice, and then Sensi just put us to shame. Built that giant behemoth. I think on their opening day, I kid you not, they had like 3 stages with bands on them.
Yeah.
Again, instead of staring at the roundabout, this time we're drinking coffee and looking at Sensi. We're like, what the heck do those guys do?
I feel like this needs to be animated and drawn out. Like
Yeah,
these
like, bring up a
stages
picture.
of drinking your coffee, watching different things happen
And we're
on this
scratching our heads
street.
going, what is this? Sensi can't figure it out. And then didn't take too long for the wax smell to come out of the factory, and we figured out what they did. Actually, we also did a project with them as neighbors. But that was sort of my first experience of a cluster of
Mhm.
businesses being co-located and then working with each other. And so, you fast forward and we as a community, we talk a lot about the influx of people, their ideas, their capital, and their businesses during the pandemic. I witnessed that way before the pandemic.
Mm.
Maybe at a slower rate, and the pandemic definitely accelerated it, but it wasn't a trend that was new. And so I lived through the years for my undergrad. I graduated 2005. My MBA, the executive MBA program, I graduated in 2015. So from 2005 to 2015, the topic that kept coming up both at PKG and at Boise State was Boise's turning into a retirement community. And
Interesting.
this was real. This was city council was talking about this. Matter of
Wow.
fact, Ben Quintana, who is now with ESI, came in and shared this with us, this thesis that look, we as a community have created a ton of service jobs, call centers.
Mhm.
People come here to retire. In those days, the cost of living was very affordable here in terms of house prices, energy, food, and so on. And so he challenged us and said, those are good assets to have as a community, but that can't be the only story. Like, we have to work on the other end. Like, people coming here to retire with their wealth is great. We'll take those jobs, but we need to plant the seeds of the next Micron, the next HP, the next Boise Cascade, the next Simplot, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And so that was the first time when I thought about strengths and weaknesses of Boise. I was like, oh yeah,
Here's where we could maybe do better.
we could
where
do better. I didn't realize. And then in that project, the project ended up in us having to stand up and pitch Shark Tank style our idea, right, on how to prevent Boise from becoming an exclusively retirement community. And my team and I, we chose, because of my bias from PKG, we researched Buffalo, New York. They had launched a research triangle around medical devices and
Mm.
medical innovation, paired with the university, a business campus, and then the state of New York invested a lot of money. And that's literally what we pitched to for our project, is creating a medical campus here where innovation for us at PKG was very hardware based,
Mhm.
but also digital innovation when it comes to healthcare and spinning out companies. And I didn't even know that would then
You didn't
later
know what you
lead.
were
I
getting
had
into.
no idea. And I was passionate about it. I remember, and I can't recall why. There's something about it that I was like, this is cool.
Mhm.
I get to I've been to all these cities in the United States to serve my customers, and they're all medical device manufacturers, and they create good jobs.
Mhm.
People that work there love working there because their work ultimately helps people. And that's what I wanted for Boise. I just didn't know that these pieces were coming together. So like Jay pitching this poster in the corridor, me doing that project at EMBA, all kind of came together. But I had another station. So at the end of my tenure at PKG,
Mhm.
I was in sales, program management. I was kind of a jack of all trades. At the core, I was a relationship builder with our clients, building trust, long sales cycles. You're
Of
familiar with
course.
that.
Yes, of course.
Super long project life cycles, high lifetime value of any client. And so
Mhm.
they needed a lot of nurturing. Also, I would get comments about, most of our business was on the coast.
Okay.
And they're like, wait, where do you live? Boise. So that whole thing, it came up
Where's
again.
Boise? Yeah.
But I tell you what, because I lived here, I didn't appreciate what we had as a community here until I would bring clients here from Iowa, from California, from Boston. And they would come here for like a quarterly business review, stay at a hotel, and we'd take them out to dinner.
And they were probably just so complimentary. Wow, this is an incredible area.
I would hear it from them.
Yes.
We would do cool things at PKG. We'd put them in a car and drive them out to Swan Falls.
Yes.
Yeah, and they would say things like, I thought you were going to bury me in the desert. Like, there isn't a soul around haven't seen another car or a human for
Yeah.
30 minutes. And here's this amazing gorge. And they just loved it here.
Mhm.
And then they wanted to come back more and spend time. And then would ask me to kind of became a tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
And through the clients, I got to then rediscover the things that made this community so special.
I have to say, I have similar experiences. We bring people in to visit our office very regularly, and they're traveling in from California, from Texas, from Washington, Utah, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York. I mean, all over the US. And every single one of them that I can recall has really commented on what is available to us here
Mm.
and just this overall quality of life that they experience when they're here. So it's echoed in all of the visitors that we have here as well. And then we also have a lot of our India based team members who come over for longer periods of time to meet with our partners in person. And through them coming to visit, we get those opportunities to rediscover Idaho as well. There are some things I had never done as an Idaho native that I did because someone visited at one point,
And there's probably still
and they
are.
they did the research. They're like, "Let's go visit this place and let's go do this." I'm like, "Wait, what?" So
Isn't that funny how it works?
it does
It's
work
right in front
that
of our
way.
nose. We take it for granted. It's our daily routine. And so, as I'm describing this evolution of Boise,
Hmm.
one thing I will say is there was a noticeable, again, coming from Frankfurt, big industry, big companies, there was a noticeable absence for me of new businesses. I knew
It was
Micron.
all legacy
I knew
in Frankfurt.
HP. No, here,
Oh,
here.
here.
But comparing it to Frankfurt, like in Frankfurt, it seemed, again, I was 17. I was a teenager, so I didn't care too much about economic development.
Hmm.
But the wall came down in 1990. There was an upswing. Germany reunited. We also won the World Cup, which was amazing. There was a ton of positive energy, and into the 90s, we just grew like gangbuster. And new companies setting up shop, new companies launching, new companies moving to Germany. And when I came here, I was like, yeah, we got Micron and HP. I guess we have Jabil too, and Plexus, and I could keep going on. And what I realized is when Micron sneezes, the entire Treasure Valley catches a cold. What I mean by that is when their stock tanked, houses went for sale in Columbia Village. People lost their jobs, couldn't afford to live there anymore. So there was just
Direct
just
tie,
one-to-one
immediate.
correlation.
Yes.
And again, I'm like, oh, this is how it is. Well, you look at other communities, and those people are typically, because fluctuating businesses, that's just part of the cycle of business, right? You
Right.
can't prevent that. You can optimize it, can't prevent it. But when it happens, as a community, we didn't have the other employers and assets and infrastructure to capture those folks and give them another job,
Hmm. To keep them here.
to keep them here. So a lot of them would leave. And that was a recurring theme. HP, similar story, different circumstances, And I know Jeet has his roots at HP as well. What a company, what a legacy.
Yes.
And then we had the printing headquarters here, and that slowly diminished into what it is now. And diminished might have been harsh, but it shrunk in size.
Hmm.
And so in the 2000s and 2010s, the story of Boise really wasn't, we're growing like crazy, we have this boom moment. It was sort of like, we're worried about Micron.
Hmm.
And I think at the time, our third or fourth largest employer was Walmart. Nothing against Walmart, but it tells you something about the health of a tech ecosystem when a retailer.
How many opportunities are missing,
Right.
absent?
Right. I go,
Yes.
that can't be right. Are you sure? Why isn't it Albertsons? Albertsons is headquartered here. Sure enough, Walmart was like in the top 5.
Mhm.
And that needle threads its way, I think, all the way to today, where I've been saying for a while now. But when you think about when I talk about ecosystems, I talk about it in decades, right? Now I've been here 2.5 decades. We're on the cusp. We've been on the cusp for at least 5 years, right before 2019, I would say, is when I start feeling it at Trailhead. And this influx of people, their ideas, their capital, their talent, their families, has really what's been driving the growth.
Mm.
And so not to talk about what's next quite yet, but the job isn't done. We haven't finished
Yeah.
the predecessor to what Trailhead's vision is for the future. We haven't gotten there yet, which is to some, defeating, discouraging. To me, it's the polar opposite. It's opportunity. It's roll up your sleeves, which is why I appreciate In Time Tech's posture when it comes to the ecosystem. The first thing that comes out of you guys' mouth is, how can we help?
What can we do?
And I usually go time, treasure, talent, and you guys show up with all three and then some. But I think we share that. And even though we don't talk about it, there was a Brookings Institute's article that called Boise a house of cards.
Mm.
And this was right before, this was 2018. I had just started Trailhead. And so there's back to, we're turning into a retirement community. So there's this narrative of, we're about to fail, we're about to fall on our face, and our economy
We
is going
have to do something.
This panic. It's really a reactive mode that then invites a lot of naysayers, negative mindsets, and they're not because they're negative people. I mean, you're induced with this, oh, if we don't add another big employer, if we don't do the, we're going to tank.
Right.
And so that is the time that I made a transition to Trailhead. Now, I think what's important to understand and about this career move is, after, over a decade at PKG, I had hit what I call my own ceiling of complexities. Like, I stopped learning. I went back to school because of that, because I needed more, and it gave me more. But then it only lasted 2 years, and then I was jonesing for more knowledge and experience again.
Yeah.
And I went from 10 years of, not wanting to try new technologies, having just been disrupted, by the way. The iPhone came out.
Yeah. It's going to change everything.
We were all BlackBerry users because we built custom keyboards and trackballs. Like, I could pull out a BlackBerry in front of a client and explain to them the design aspects of their product just based on this phone. Well, overnight, I pulled out my BlackBerry and they looked at me like I was from the Stone Age.
The BlackBerry, I remember double texting, like double thumb texting with the BlackBerry.
Full QWERTY keyboard.
That's, yes.
Optical trackball. I know I'm nerding out right now. But, you pull that out, and a client looks at it like, dang, you could do that?
Business.
So, yeah, we could do that. We can backlight this thing. We can laser etch it, until it wasn't cool anymore. And then my client, who at the time, this was a medical device company, she pulled out her iPhone. I'd seen it on TV, literally. And she goes, I'm used to using this now. And I can reprogram this user interface in minutes. I don't have to retool.
Yeah.
And I think doctors want this in the operating room. We were like, no, they don't. Bodily fluids. This is a resistive technology. Fluids will activate false input. This is the things we were telling ourselves.
Of course.
And then over time, we started losing business because these ultrasound machines.
And at that point, you can't ignore what people are saying.
You can't ignore what people are saying.
Or you can, but it likely won't go that well.
You can't ignore it, because when you lose business, it makes you reconsider. Losing business is also part of the deal. It's a data point. But when you start losing business upon business upon business, and then you come to the conclusion that, oh, this new product that we quoted as a mechanical keyboard is now a touch screen. We knew that this unique innovation around printed circuit boards on flexible materials, what I told you about earlier, that has gotten us to where we were to earn this box build contract design manufacturing business, is not going to be the ticket to take us 10 years out. I saw it because it was happening in front of me.
Yes.
And I also wasn't an engineer. In other words, I wasn't tied to that unique technical ability to be my differentiator. 80% of our employees, that might be an exaggeration, were engineers.
There was an attachment.
There was an attachment. There was a ridicule of the new technology. This is a consumer product in your pocket. You really think this is going to end up in a cockpit of an Airbus? Well, it did.
Here we are. Yeah.
It did. And so by the time we realized that we have been disrupted by touchscreens, it was too late for us to spin up any kind of R&D. This was already being manufactured. So then we became an integrator. So we had to buy touchscreens that were fabricated overseas through US Touch International was the name in Texas. By the time we got them, we then applied some pretty cool technologies in bonding the touchscreen to the LCD. It's called optical bonding. It prevents glare. Our phones are optically bonded.
Thank goodness. Glasses.
Glasses, right? Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So there's no air gap. But really, we gave up our margins and we became an
Interesting.
integrator.
Yes.
And our clients started to view us as you're buying this touchscreen, you're buying this plastic, you're buying all these things.
Now you're not actually manufacturing anything.
Yeah, you're just
unique.
putting it together for us.
Yes.
And they didn't say it like that, but that's what they concluded. We became an
That
integrator.
was the undertone of the
Yeah.
conversation. I have to interject, Tiam, because this is the cycle of innovation, and I don't feel this conversation is often had where people who are successful, companies that are successful long term, usually have multiple pivots. They have multiple pivots. I cannot think, and maybe this just shows my naivety, I can't think of a company that is doing the exact same thing with the exact same tools and the exact same systems as they were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, who is relevant and has profit margin and is providing jobs and impacting an economy or a community. And so then it takes me down this path where you think, okay, the power of an entrepreneur, the power of innovation is not in finding one idea.
Mm.
That it truly is a mindset. It's not something external. It's not something outside of you that you build once, but it's something that changes how you see the world. And PKG is a great example of that. You've mentioned multiple times as you're sharing how that company evolved. We did this until this, and then this happened. And all of a sudden, we're doing the whole thing. We're doing the design. We're doing the boxing. We're doing the packaging. We're doing it all. And then it was this. But then this came out. So then we shifted. Now, you also shared that's when you lost profit margin. But when you think of how many companies started within the company itself,
Mm-hmm.
there's a cycle there.
There's a cycle, and I think what's oftentimes overlooked, there's case studies about this stuff, right? So this isn't some like groundbreaking original thought here. But what strikes me about what you're describing, and when you talk about a company doing the same thing and then pivoting, there's a science behind what you're talking about. It's called corporate life cycles.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, I forgot his name. He's an Israeli author. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, studied 200 businesses and just brought it down to their data. And then he described this corporate life cycle, and he goes, courtship, birth, go-go mode, prime, kind of at the top of the curve, and then there's a decline.
Yes.
And then at the end was death. And so for us, and at PKG, we studied this book. Tom Gay, brilliant consultant at the time, kind of told us, guys, read this book. If you don't find yourself in this book, then something else is wrong with you. And we did. We were go-go mode.
Mm-hmm.
We said yes to everything.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for that pigtail, because you don't want to go down the curve. You want to pivot and go further up, right?
Absolutely. There's another book we've read here, Predictable Success, and it has a very similar model of what a company lives through and when they're growing, when they're at peak, when they're going through white water. And something I really got from that book when we read it, we've read it multiple times, but it's that you should be innovating.
Sounds like an assignment.
It does. Hey guys, hey guys. It was that you start innovating when you're on the top.
You're making my point for me. I appreciate that. And so the innovator's dilemma has been described in so many different ways.
Yes.
And I articulated it as I'm about to share with you after I started working with power engineers.
Did you say pyro engineers?
Power engineers.
Okay, I'm like, wow, that
Not
sounds
pyro,
really
power
exciting.
engineers.
What part of your story did we skip over
The
to
pyros.
talk about pyro engineers?
Not a pyro. We live in the desert. That's a
Power
no-no.
engineers.
That's a no-no word in
Okay.
this community.
All right.
Power engineers recently acquired by WSP. They have an internal innovation team. Angela Thomas.
Wonderful. I get to work
She
with
runs
her.
it. And there's a few other folks that she reports to that are really, Jason Pfaff, William Potts. They're there to like set the culture, and then she does the work with the people. But they manage power grids. They build power grids. It's all about power delivery. And I see their effort of trying to innovate internally, and they invest money, time. They have this internal MBA program. They have an internal innovation. They really walk the talk. I mean, they
Yeah.
just don't go blah, blah, blah. I've been there. I've taught those classes. These people are engaged. They're empowered to create change and innovate. But it comes from a place of we want to disrupt ourselves before we get disrupted. Whether we invent it or we partner with someone who's inventing it or we acquire them, there's many different ways to skin that cat. But this is what I concluded on. And they they asked me to come in and tell the PKG touchscreen story. Because these are all
Oh,
engineers
I love
they're
that.
super nerds. They loved it because they
Yeah.
can relate to it. They're like, oh, of course, you idiots. Touchscreens took over the world and you missed it. And I have to roll around in that. You have to own that.
Right.
But this is what I concluded, is that companies who are big and have a profitable business unit, product, whatever, it's against their nature to disrupt themselves because their hammer and everything they see is a nail. They have this road of profitability, and anything that lies outside of that is a waste of resources because we could take those resources and put it in the thing we know is producing profit. And so the challenge becomes, what is the cost of not innovating? What is the opportunity cost of not? It's really hard to quantify. But when touchscreens came out on the market, it was quantified for us.
Yeah.
The cost of us not innovating was such that eventually PKG later on went out of business. You know, a company that was around for almost 30 years.
Right.
And so, as I look at the HPs and the Microns, big, and when I say big, what I mean is they're not light on their feet. Change takes a ton
lot
of
of time
effort and time and
yes.
money. And then, I also see some of these companies creating basically teams that they then shelter from their logic of why we're pursuing our business model and why are we not investing in these other areas, because they want to unleash those people from those blinders and literally put them outside of their own four walls. That works in some cases, like HP, again, great story with the Kitty Hawk and how they invented that, which was way ahead of its time, but it was done against all rationale that was driving business decisions at HP. And so, yeah, the innovator's dilemma is you kind of have to see it coming. And to do that, you have to be out there. So what I'm saying is an engineering manager who is running that business unit that is profitable isn't the same person to do that. So now you have to hire a new person. That's an additional cost to do something that's intangible at first. We did that. At PKG, we hired a director of R&D. And I don't know exactly how long it took, but it was less than a year. Him and his team folded under the engineering team about a year later because there just nothing came out of their group that made money in 6 months, which is a tall order when you talk about innovation. And the cycles
it's a longer sales cycle. It can be challenging to identify what is going to work within a 6-month time frame, especially as a larger company.
And post PKG, you had all these experiences of like why disrupting yourself is absolutely essential on staying alive, staying relevant, being a part of the community going forward. And I had about a 4-year stint at Vacasa in between PKG and Trailhead. And what a prime example. Vacation rental manager, if you ever booked a home online as a vacation rental, chances are it was a Vacasa home. Their homes are on Airbnb, VRBO, Vacasa.com. They're the world's, I believe now, largest vacation rental manager. But when I joined them, my job was to buy our competition. And, I came from a hardware world where you change a resistor, you're putting people's lives at risk. Now I'm running around with a bag full of money literally around the world buying companies. Like the risk was just outrageous. But as a result of that process, I got to work. And it's funny how vacation rentals work. No one goes to school or builds a career to be a vacation rental manager. They usually have a house in McCall and they rent it out and the neighbor goes, you do a really good job renting out your house. You always have guests. They always seem respectful. Do you mind renting mine out too? 50 homes later,
You've got a business.
you got a business and you don't want to have anything to do with it because people call you at 2 a.m.
You're
asking
always
you why
on.
the internet isn't working.
Yes.
I can tell you some stories of like some funnier things. I'll spare you. So here I am working with people who've coincidentally built a business thriving businesses, they're entrepreneurs through and through. They kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
And they came from all different backgrounds. And everyone did it differently depending on where in the country they were. It also has to do with regulations. Like some states, it's called trust accounting. So when you go rent a house, you're technically almost crossing the line of a landlord-tenant law, right? Not in Idaho. So every region was doing it differently. Also, as cultural aspects. You know, we were based in Portland, so we were like this hipster Portland company. And I got to learn how we did 80 deals in my time, how these 80 entrepreneurs built their own businesses very differently, the struggles they faced, how they innovated. Yet here we were as Vacasa, as the ultimate innovator in the space.
The giant that everyone recognizes.
We weren't the giant yet,
Okay.
but we were onto something.
Upward trend.
Dynamic pricing, basically like airline tickets.
Yeah, of course.
Like
It changes, it fluctuates.
It changes, it fluctuates based on
gonna be
supply and demand.
More expensive during spring break.
Sounds
Christmas.
crazy, but at the time, the vacation rental management industry did not have those tools. They basically had a summer rate, a winter rate, and so what they call the mud season, the seasons, you know, think spring and fall in McCall, they weren't able to bring people in, and so the restaurants struggled, you know, the community struggled as a result. So Vacasa, when we would set up shop in a community, like we instantly brought in
Boosted
more tourism,
the economy.
boosted the economy, and I could see. I go, again, my PKG brain. I'm like, I can't believe
Your
that
PKG brain.
dynamic price,
like
this
that phrase.
one thing that I can do, by the way,
Yeah.
and I wasn't technical, still am not technical, is changing this industry. And then I would go to trade shows, you know, and see the people whose businesses I bought. Many of them worked for us. They stayed on for a while. And whenever I showed up to a booth, you know, people try to sell you, hey, here's our service. This is what we do. Who are you with? I would say Vacasa. And instantly the body language was just, yeah, I don't have anything to sell you. You guys are doing great. You guys sort of invented the playbook around dynamic pricing. I was like, hey, it's fine, you know, cool story, high five, good to meet you. And I moved on. So I saw how this simple thing really took a hold of an industry and then positioned Vacasa to then become the giant, the behemoth, you know, raising tons of money, going public on a SPAC. Now they were acquired recently by CasaGo. And so that experience really unchained my linear way of thinking about innovation. The way I was...
Because you lived it.
I lived it. Also, I grew up in Germany. Very linear thinkers, very risk adverse. There's a reason they build darn good cars, is because they're nerds and they want to perfect it.
Yeah.
Now, perfection and innovation
always blend.
They're not friends.
They're not great.
They don't go to the same
opposites,
parties.
Yeah.
Right? They don't hang out. And so I went from that mindset to PKG. It was like, I love this. I thrive here. Very little risk, linear thinking. 1 + 1 is 2. I understand that. Then to Vacasa, and it totally broke this mindset that you mentioned earlier of mine, because I saw it in the marketplace. They told me about it. I was like, yeah,
Sure.
we'll see. And then I went to the market and I saw it actually taking a hold, and the way it was impacting us. I go, man, this is crazy.
It's real.
This
is how it works.
And it was almost too easy, to be honest with you. But that's the thing about the innovator's dilemma. I think oftentimes people and companies talk about innovation, and they like to talk about Steve Jobs. They like to talk about these earth-shattering,
Of course,
changes to the way we live and work.
Yeah.
Yes, it's that. But to me, that's a very small slice of the overall innovation economy.
Yes.
And so I think the part that doesn't get a lot of hype because of, you know, this VC startup culture is the incremental innovation. Is when PKG went from membrane switches to box builds.
Well, if you fast forward this whole concept, it fits really well because everywhere you go, it's not hard to find. There's conversations around AI.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Let's get into it. Right. So every event that I've gone to for the last 2 years, there's an AI panel. There's an AI workshop. There are experts talking about AI, and I love it and I'm here for it. But when we're talking about innovation, AI is something that is going to change the face of how companies do business and how students learn and how people engage with their employer and their end
So you're
customers.
describing a tool.
But it's a tool.
It's a tool.
And when you look, see, I have the opportunity to talk with partners, clients. In Time Tech calls our clients partners almost every day about what's your roadmap and what's your strategy and what's your vision. And what I'm seeing is that there's this eagerness to adopt this tool because of what it is capable of. And we all agree that it's capable of so much. But implementation is very different than the benefits that it's going to provide. And there's some work that needs to be done. And so I can have a partner reach out and say, oh man, AI is the solution. And it is. It's wonderful. There's an innovation there that can really create some transformation. But then perhaps that ends up being a 6-month data project because you have 40 years of data that is not organized. You don't have a data warehouse. You have no way to extract clean data to put it into an AI solution so that it can provide you the output that it needs. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something where you're going to flip a switch and it's just on and it's functioning and it's fully integrated and it's doing all of the things that you want it to do.
You're describing innovation.
That is the innovation
You're describing
cycle.
it through the 2 points I want to make there.
Mhm.
One is, look at OpenAI, wildly unprofitable,
Yes.
crazy valuations.
Mhm.
And some will argue that is what it's going to take for this AI to eventually become profitable.
Yeah.
So someone has to be, call it crazy enough, irrational enough, go against all logic when it comes to like making a profit now, and they're investing in the future, right? So
Mhm.
that's one point. The other point that you just described that comes up as you describe innovation, let me mirror what your partners are saying to you and what founders are saying to me.
Mhm.
So in my job, I meet with founders all the time. It's part of my gig. That's why I love it. I get to meet with people who are innovating for a living. That's what they do.
Mhm.
And this surge of AI into their pitch decks, right? So there's a couple of different categories. So there's some companies that they call themselves like native AI companies. Like they didn't exist before. Now that AI is here, they're native AI companies.
Yeah.
I see a lot of companies that started before AI was so prevalent, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I integrate? How can I say to my client, yes, we have AI,
Mhm.
without even thinking about value proposition,
Why do I have it?
pain
What is
points?
it doing?
They don't think about
What's
that.
it solving?
I understand it because they go up on stage or in front of investors and they compete with companies who do have AI, and to investors that the lure of efficiencies and lower payroll because of AI
Mhm.
sets them apart from those who don't have it.
It's a
So
differentiator.
it's a differentiator. I don't think we're knocking it,
No, not
but
at
I'm
all.
calling it out. So a
Yes.
lot of folks try to find ways to integrate it into their pitch decks and reverse engineer it. Some do well and truly find a way to meaningfully to their customer, right? Like
Mhm.
customer centric, meaningfully integrate AI. So many of them, though, just have it in there because of FOMO. And it's probably happened with the internet. I mean, I saw a video of Bezos, who I don't watch much, but I saw a video of him in like the 90s and how he was defending and making this plea that the internet's going to change the way we shop. People laughed at him, right? So I got some
Hindsight's 2020.
hindsight's 2020, right? So I
Yeah.
got some flashbacks to that. And as I think about AI, I use it every day
I do too.
as a tool. It took I was when I was I'm not a digital native. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
I grew up without the internet. I got the internet or access to the internet when I was 18, really when I moved to the US. And so I had to go through that transition before.
Mhm.
And I watched my parents go through that transition of smartphones and the internet. I'm getting deja vu, right, with this AI evolution. I don't want to call it revolution.
Mhm.
It-
Because
it-
it will make an impact. It is the next wave.
and if you don't learn about
Mhm.
it or learn to use it, I think they put it to you this way. If you get really proficient at using AI and the different AI tools to be better, faster, more creative at your job, and
Mhm.
I don't, differentiator.
It's a differentiator.
And so
And you said a lot of people have FOMO because if they don't include it, then what? But I would also add to that experience that when In Time Tech shows up on a call and we talk about AI, they might not be ready for it. They may not want it, but it has to be a part of the conversation because it reflects a credibility. Somewhere it creates this peace of mind that you are listening, you're paying attention, this is not going unnoticed, you're not resisting, and to some extent, you are acknowledging that it can create more productivity and it can create cost savings, it can create these opportunities for you. And as long as that's a part of this 30,000-foot view as we look at what is possible and how we move forward, I'm open.
I am really curious about your perspective here because you can build AI, right?
We do.
You are the technologist that people run to
Yes.
when they have that feeling of FOMO and they come, you're their trusted partner, right?
Yes.
And not to put my PKG hat on, I was that customer facing person too, and they expected us to know about touchscreens more than they did, which
Yes.
wasn't the case. And they also asked us to just integrate touchscreens in areas where, in those cases, weren't appropriate. It wasn't the right technology for the use case.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm super curious, like what your take is as you talk to your partners. Some are more tech savvy, tech literate, others aren't. I know you guys do a lot of work in digital transformation, so implying that there's like
Yes.
old legacy systems and now AI on top of that.
Yeah.
So like, kind of take me into those meetings, into those interactions
Conversation.
when you guys hear from your clients the desire,
Mm-hmm.
the need, the curiosity about AI.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do? Do you find like a low-hanging fruit for them to implement it where they can see some gains? Do you look at their whole system? How do you even go about consulting an existing business
Mm-hmm.
that may be in the midst of a digital transformation to get caught up on
Something so
servers and
trending.
internet, let alone this new thing, AI? I mean, I'd probably end up selling them a ton of AI that they don't need. But how do you,
Yeah.
yeah, they're your partners, right? And,
Yeah.
and and you guys have a success share model. So it's really in your best interest to make them successful without giving away any names, but like kind of give me a taste of it.
How
What
does
is
it
it like?
work, right? So this is coming back to innovation. Being an entrepreneur is something that I really, really love about this platform in Time Tech is that when we started this business, and I say we, it's not mine. I didn't start it. I'm not a founder, and yet I feel like it's mine. And I would attribute that as a success
You act like
of
it's yours
Jeet
too.
and who he is as a president and CEO. He really wants everybody to have that kind of relationship and ownership with this platform that's been built. But when Jeet really opened and started in Time Tech, he wasn't married to one thing. And that was, in hindsight, brilliant. It wasn't, this is the solution, and this is the platform, and this is the technology, and this is the tech stack, this is the product, this is the service. It was, I'm opening a business to make an impact in the world. And innovation is going to be constant. It has to be. If we want to build a legacy company, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to understand the pain. We're going to understand the problem and the challenge. And from that, an opportunity will make itself very obvious. And yet we knew technology. So
So when you apply
yes,
that very framework,
yes, I do that. We do that with AI.
does it occur that you talk a partner out of AI?
There are times.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting.
And this is the beauty of not being attached to anything. It's
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
what's the pain? What's keeping you up at night? What's not working? What's really hitting you in a way that you would say, if I could resolve this, I would. And sometimes it's data. Sometimes it's not about implementing AI. It's your data is so disconnected and it's so dirty. We have to look at that.
It's so dirty. I like that.
We call it dirty data, right? But you would be amazed where we are in conversations with Fortune 500 companies and their systems are 40 years old. They're not thinking about how do I implement AI. They're thinking, how do I bridge the gap to even get to a point where I can have an intelligent conversation about AI? Because it would be so impractical right now.
That's exactly what I'm curious about. This catching up.
It's so
But then there's
impractical.
this other thing. Do you leapfrog?
Yes.
Do you, I don't know the answer. I mean, I guess it also depends, back to your point, on what their pain point is
What hurts?
in that
What's going
discovery
on?
process. But
Now, we can infuse AI in solving that problem, but that isn't necessarily lending itself to building them an AI solution. Engineers are going to become a lot more proficient. And so maybe we can bridge those gaps in less time in a more cost-effective way because AI is there. But it all varies. But it's the next wave. I have no doubt about that. It's not going anywhere. It's going to revolutionize a lot of things and how we do business. But it's nothing to fear, and it's not gonna be a similar pace for every single company. And
as you're
you know,
describing that, I remember there was the saying among startups that would identify, I'm a tech company, I'm a tech startup,
mhm.
I'm a tech startup, and that worked for a while. And then the service software as a service model, SaaS model, really blew up VC and the whole startup world because, for all the reasons you could scale the thing like infinitely almost, right?
Yeah.
And this whole "I'm a tech startup" line became so old that if someone were to say it, they'd be like, "Well, even if you're a bakery, you have to have tech."
Yeah.
So this
Everyone's a tech company.
everyone is a tech
You have a
company,
point of sale system, tech
tech
company.
company,
Scheduling application,
tech
tech.
company.
It just goes on and on.
So is AI similar in that to
Yes.
you? Where like, I don't know, 2, 3, 5. Also, the cycle of innovation is rapidly shrinking. Is it going to be something similar where it's just a given,
Mhm.
and people don't founders and people who are digitally transforming their businesses don't have or won't say, I'm an AI based company. It's just like, of course you are.
Of
If
course you
if
are.
you weren't, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be in business.
Absolutely. I see that in the future, without a doubt. Because we're using it all the time. I'm sure we're both using it to be more efficient and more productive. I use AI every day.
How do you go about it? And this is interesting because you are builders of technology. Uh, did you guys, was there like a all hands on deck meeting as soon as Jeet read about ChatGPT? Like, was there this moment where like, all right, guys, AI is here. We're building a team. Like,
Mm.
did you do that? Was it like, did you integrate it into your existing structure as a tool? How did you guys
Oh, I
approach it?
love it. I love this question. No one has ever asked me this question before. This is the fun part. When AI was really just starting to become a conversation, we were already investing into it. So we talk about the innovation cycle for corporations. You should be looking for the thing you are going to invest in
Hmm.
when things are going well. Most people wait until everything's tanking and they go, we have to do something. Something has to change. We have to find a way to generate more revenue. We have to find a way to just become steady state,
Back
diversify.
to the concept of you innovate when you're at the top,
You
when you have
innovate
the
when you're at the
resources,
top.
when you're not looking down the barrel.
Exactly. And Jeet is that leader. He's always looking at where do we go next when it's good, not when it's bad. When it's bad, it's already too late. You're already under pressure.
You got to fix the bad before yeah.
You've got to patch the holes in the boat at that point. So you're not able to give the resources, time, and energy into real innovation. So this was something that In Time Tech started years ago. And we have a global team of people who are fully dedicated to building AI, learning AI, understanding AI. We have been building AI solutions separate from the services that we offer
Hmm.
and becoming those subject matter experts so that when people come and ask us about it, we're not going, oh, we just heard about it. We're learning about it now. So it started many, many years ago. I would say
So Jeet had the
4 years
foresight.
ago.
Jeet had the foresight. Okay.
He had the foresight when it became a conversation to start going, this would change everything. It's going to change technology and staff augmentation as we know it.
Staff augmentation. That's a big part of your business.
That's
I
a
see.
big part of the business.
I see.
So what happens when you can do things faster with less manpower? Now it's not a threat for us either. We go, this is good for everybody.
We need less manpower too, right? Same if you applied it to the founders that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
The game the playbook of building a startup has changed
Yes.
because of AI.
Yes.
And all to say, you can build digital products much faster, much cheaper now, whereas previously that was the bottleneck to even you getting off the ground, is hiring developers, finding the money,
Yes.
change orders. They're building you a Cadillac, you want a Volkswagen. Like you founders, I don't want to say they can skip, but they can significantly de-risk the
Expedite.
early stage of their MVP dabbling, right?
Yes.
And so as you talk about how you guys you had the foresight and you innovate when you're at the top, let me share some news with you.
Please.
S-
Is this
Um,
the first time you're sharing it? Did you
it is.
save it for the podcast?
No, timing good on your part. I have not shared this publicly.
Okay.
We have shared it. We as in Trailhead, we shared it with our members. And so after 10 years of operating at our headquarters on 8th Street, and changes in our environment, changes with our funding model and federal grants and rent assistance, we found ourselves in a place, when I took over 7 years ago, Trailhead was a wounded animal. I'll say that. And we've fixed that leg. And I've brought on a incredible team who then took that healed animal and made it to what it is now, into one of the most thriving nonprofits locally that's making an incredible economic impact. And so shout out to Jacob and Annika and Kelby, my team. We've decided while we were at the top, as you said, when we had the wherewithal, the capacity, the resources, and the foresight to make this change, we are moving our headquarters.
Wow.
We are moving not far.
Okay. Where are you landing?
We're landing 300 feet north of where we currently are.
Incredible.
Still on
All
8th
right.
Street in Bodo, where we used to have Trailhead North in the same building. It's the old 8th Street Marketplace where Cafe au Lait used to be.
Wow.
And it's not just a change in location. We are pivoting. As a matter of fact, we have been pivoting over the last 5 years, focusing less on co-working, more on incubation.
Yes.
And with Jacob coming on board, we really have that on lockdown. Now we're going to focus on incubation and acceleration. They're two different stages of the same process. And acceleration, really, like that component is connecting founders to capital or any means of growth that they need. Is not always capital. And so our space is going to be slightly smaller. It's a little bit more posh than our space now.
Yeah.
It's going to be much more focused on incubating and accelerating entrepreneurs than co-working. Like I said, we have 3 private offices, so we can now bring in a entrepreneur through the door with an idea on a napkin, try to talk them out of forming a business. They're going to form it anyways, and they're gonna win 50 grand at Boise Entrepreneur Week,
Right.
or 5,000 from the Impact Award that In Time Tech has. The Abundance Award that In Time Tech has launched.
Award.
So they're going to win money, and then we used to say, good luck. See you next time. This is the end of the road for our program portfolio. We have nothing else to serve you with. And having private offices then allows us to offer them, it's like a halfway home for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They're not quite out in the world ready to sign a 1, 2, 5-year lease, ready to pay for the insurance that takes it, all the overhead, the cleaning costs, the security.
Yeah.
So this space really, it's an evolution. It's not a revolution. And it's an evolution in a direction that we've been heading towards. And now with this opportunity, our physical space is now going to reflect the same evolution. And it's exciting. It's daunting at the same time because we've been where we are for 10 years. I was in this building for 11 years. I know what I'm talking about.
You've lived it. You've done it.
You start to identify yourself with the shell that you operate out of.
Yes.
And people will see you as that. They connotate Tiam with Trailhead with 500 South 8th Street.
Yes.
And so it took initially some overcoming on my part to realize, look, it's not the space. Space is just commodity. It's the people.
It's the people.
It's the people and it's the work that you do. And we can take people and the work that we do and transfer it 300 feet north. Not only will we be okay, it will be better.
It will be the next thing.
It will be
is
the next thing.
innovative in and of itself.
We'll be able to serve entrepreneurs longer during their life cycle, incubate them more until they're on solid footing. I also think it opens up some pretty creative partnership opportunities with In Time Tech, with Boise State, with the Idaho Technology Council.
Yeah.
I would rattle off another 40, but all of the local actors in the ecosystem. You'll experience Trailhead as it was before, and I'm curious on your take once we have our opening and you get to come check out the space.
I can't wait.
There's a really cool speakeasy event space that we have access to in the
Incredible.
basement of this building, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's quintessential.
I can see the excitement on your face.
Quintessential
You're like,
Boise.
a lot is going to happen
When I saw that space, I was like, so how do I sign the lease there so I can get this?
Right.
And Ephraim, our landlord, he made a good deal with us. We have access to the space.
Wonderful.
It really is putting together the building blocks of what gets the flywheel spinning for the future for Trailhead. Big part of that equation is access to capital. We're making big strides as a community. There are many local angel and seed investors who are ambassadors for Idaho, who are out there pitching
bringing
Idaho
people here
to our neighboring states.
Yes.
Bringing them here, getting them to consider investing in Idaho. And, that's been something that's been in the works as long as, at least for me, I can just speak for myself. Like as long as I've been at Trailhead, like that was the nut to crack. Now you asked me about the origins of Entrepreneur Week. It used to be called Startup Week. The origins are pretty straightforward. Boise State, the city of Boise, decided to launch that event. And, I stand on their shoulders. If they hadn't done it, I wouldn't be here. And I said that so I can say the following. An academic institution and a municipality are probably not the two best candidates to build a startup ecosystem. Well intended. They brought on a guy, Nick Krabs, who ran the thing for them in year one. And when I joined Entrepreneur Week, Startup Week at the time, the focus was talent retention. That was the biggest pain point for our community at the time.
Interesting.
Talent retention, students leave the state. We can't hire enough developers to build our product. We got to poach from these people.
Build up the programs, build up the education system. How do we get more talent here, build a pipeline, and then we need to have a city that they want to live in.
Have a city they want to live in. How do we help Boise State and U of I to increase their output of CS graduates?
Yes.
Once they output more, how do we keep them here? That was sort of where Startup Week came from. It was addressing that pain point. And quickly, I joined I think 2017 was their first year. 2018, I joined and I became the chair of Entrepreneur Week. Startup Week, obviously, I have a problem with the renaming here. And two things. One, it was the best. I cursed it at the time because I had 1 month and someone told me, oh, by the way.
Do this thing, right?
It's called Startup Week and it's going to be fine.
Simple.
And it was like my fourth week on the job, right? I believed them. I was like, oh, yeah, well, cool. We'll do this thing. And someone came in and told me what it was about. And I was just like,
wait, what?
How do we get out of this? Glad I didn't. Glad I stuck with it. It was the best way for me to really get to know people in the ecosystem, get alongside them shoulder to shoulder and work on a thing as opposed to being across the table and asking them for a thing.
Yeah.
That made a big difference. And it highlighted Boise's strength to me. And at the time, I still came, yes, we're a cheap place to live. Yes, we are affordable and there's good healthcare, race to the bottom, retirement community like narrative. It's like, how do I beat that? It became, this is a great place to build a business and grow a business. And I wasn't saying it. People who were doing it were telling me this.
So you just listen. Capitalize.
We listened and we quickly pivoted. And as you know, now we're obsessed with pitch competitions.
Yes.
We pivoted to playing Robin Hood. Instead of stealing the money, we went to the private institutions in Boise and we asked them for sponsorships to then give away to entrepreneurs. That was crazy to them. They're like, what? You're going to take my money. You're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And you're going to give it away?
Yes.
Why would you do that? And then the storytelling came in, right?
Of course.
Like, how did Simplot start and grow? How did he help the Micron founders, the Parkinson's brothers start and grow? We're not J.R. Simplot, but it's in the same spirit. You take wealth from the community
Mhm.
and you reinvest it into that community. So one day that community can be the wealthy community that you extract from, and so on and so forth.
That is an innovation cycle
It
in
is an
and of
innovation
itself.
cycle. It's a virtuous cycle, and it's one that's, I think, uniquely positioned in Boise because
Mhm.
we are like Boise and Ice is real. I buy it. I get it. I probably won't tell people about it in that way. I think collaboration is the right word. And if you think about innovation, like the collaborative nature of that is required to innovate, we are blessed with it here.
Mhm.
And so I'm very bullish on the future. I am very bullish on the last 10 years of impact, the seeds that we, and when I say we, I don't just mean Trailhead. I mean in Time Tech. I mean all of our partners. There's
Yeah,
too
of
many
course.
of them to name them. All the seeds that we have planted in the last 10 years, those rewards will come to us in the next 10 years. So
Mhm.
again, back to you got to think in decades. And so, and In Time Tech to me is a testament to that.
Yeah.
Again, I met Jeet when you guys were just renting a part of this building. He probably looked at
It's
our
10
business.
years ago.
Yeah, he probably
It
looked
was
at our
a
business
decade
model, was like,
ago,
I'm not going to
11.
do that. I'm going to stay agnostic and just solve whatever problems the customers have because of all this physical infrastructure.
Yeah.
And look at you now.
Yeah.
And look at where you're going. So back to the how is Boise evolving, I
Mhm.
think you take the In Time Tech story and so many other stories.
So many.
And to me, that reflects how Boise is evolving. You know, there is a strategy in ecosystem building where you, in the early days of an ecosystem, before you have a lot of investors and tech startups, before you look like Salt Lake City, basically, and they're doing a really good job, by the way.
Yes.
There is this concept of I call it recycling success. So you take the success of a founder, of an exit, of an IPO, money, time, treasure, talent, basically. And how do you take that success and you put it in the next wave? That
And
is,
then you build.
and then you build. So that is to me where we're headed as a community. Is we're about to have some successes, and I think we can be better at how we share successes with employees. I think some other ecosystems are really showing us how it's done. Essentially, if you have an exit as a founder or an IPO, you should create 20 millionaires. I just made that number up.
I like it.
20.
It's bold.
Let's take 20.
Let's be unreasonable.
Let's work with 20.
Mhm.
You know, in reality, exits in Salt Lake City are creating hundreds of millionaires.
There.
That's
Yeah.
real. And so what are those millionaires going to do? I call them millionaires. These are now people who had the startup experience, who were just part of a journey, built something, and now they have the resources to go do their own thing.
Mm.
And to me, that's one form of recycling success I think we can do better as a community. That's not something you or I can do. I think it comes down to helping founders mature. We're still a very young.
And it comes back to mindset, I would say. If they can have that mindset, if our entrepreneurs, our startups, our organizations that have been here for decades can have the mindset of how do we recycle each other's successes, learn from one another, and capitalize and build on it.
And in that mindset, I am grateful for companies like In Time Tech, because here's the deal. A founder will remember who helped him
Mm-hmm.
or her, will remember where the resources came from, will remember the day where they had a knot in their stomach and they wanted to throw the towel, because that probably happens to them every other day. And they remember the resources that came alongside them and helped them to get out of the rut,
Mm-hmm.
or to help them actually decide to wind it down because that's best for them. And so when In Time Tech shows up for the tech talks, for Entrepreneur Week, we are helping shape the mindset of founders because we're helping them. So when the time comes for them to give back, frankly,
Yes.
they remember those. It's really hard to go to a founder who did it all in a silo, all by themselves, which is rare, but it happens, and try to sell them on the idea of it's time for you to reinvest your success in the community. I go, well, the community didn't do anything for me, anything tangible. I have a nice place to live and traffic isn't
Interesting
as
thought.
bad.
I think that's a great note for us to end on, in the sense that it takes community. And instead of just looking at how can we do business out there, which is still important, How can we do business with each other? How do
Oh,
we?
I love that. How do we? Because what you're saying, and I would love to end on this is something Jason Crawforth, one of the Trailhead founders and
Mhm.
currently board member, he brings up all the time. And when he first brought it up, people didn't quite understand it.
Yeah.
But the thesis is that we as a community, like when we have a startup and in time tech here, we don't just you don't just compete with the in time tech version that lives in California. It's called a different company.
Mhm.
You and the community behind you, we are
Mhm.
competing against that company and their community behind them.
Mhm.
So that's what we can do to help each other succeed, do business with each other.
Yes.
Um, in essence, accepting the fact that competition isn't just between two parties anymore.
No.
It's between communities.
And we can lift each other up.
we can lift each other up. And look at what Boise, we have benefited from that so much in the last decade. We would be
Absolutely.
foolish to turn a blind eye to that aspect.
Mhm.
It's not going to be the only ingredient that we have to focus on, but I love to end on it because
It's something that will make a difference.
it's
Walk into a room and instead of just looking at that one company, I want to do business with them. Turn to your left, turn to your right. Those companies likely need something that you have, and you will likely need something that they have.
and that's the reciprocal part of, I think, when I say changing the mindset that
Mhm.
that we can instill. We have to pay it forward. Someone's got to take the risk and take the leap. You guys are right there alongside us. It's kind of our nature to be that
Yeah.
element in this valley. And I have seen founder mindset, founder maturity, the community of founders come such a long way in such a short time, punching above our weight class, as some say, kicking butts and taking names,
Right.
you know, sending an Idaho startup to the Startup World Cup for the very first time. And Ashley Crafton like comes in second place in the freaking
Incredible.
world.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what a testament. And again, like sometimes it takes that external validation, even for me,
Yeah, of
to be like,
course.
so how do we
It
fare?
creates perspective.
It does. I'm like, so how do we fare? Oh, Ashley, medical product is installed inside of a human. Ooh, she's gonna have a, and then she lands second. It tells you something, not
Yeah.
about. It tells you something about her, which then you can extrapolate things about the community that I think you and I, frankly, are trying to build. We're aligned.
Of
There's
course.
synergy. We have different approaches, tools, and resources. But I think at the end of the day, I can say this about Trailhead. I could dare to say this about In Time Tech. But if In Time Tech and Trailhead operate in a thriving, flourishing community,
Mhm.
it's better for us and our employees and business.
Absolutely. And I mean this from a place of celebration
Hmm.
and not to undermine all the work that's put in, has been put in up until this time over decades for people who have been well established in the community and who have believed in the community and just really shown up and invested every step of the way. But I like to think of it this way from a place of possibility.
Hmm.
This is just the start. It's really just the beginning. And I say that to myself every day about everything, no matter how far we've come. And it's blended with that celebration. I'm so grateful we are where we are. We've learned what we've learned. And when you look at the future and what's possible, it's so much.
And
And it's so big.
now is not the time to rest on those laurels anyway, right?
No, let's go.
Let's
Let's
go.
lean in.
Bet on
We
Boise
have things
people.
to
Let's do
do.
this.
Beautiful. Tiam, thank you so much for taking the time
Thanks for
today.
having me.
Share your story, where you see things are going. I love talking about innovation. My hope, and hope is not a strategy, my goal in this conversation is that people walk away with a different mindset on what innovation is and when to do it and what it can look like, and approach it from a place of commitment and not attachment, and see that there's so much runway ahead of us given what we've already accomplished together as a community.
Let me add one more takeaway to
Yes.
complement the two that you said. Another thing I want people to walk away from this conversation with is you have help in this community. You have resources, you and I and others.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to learn about innovation, they want to learn more about AI, reach out. Like we're here. Like
We're here.
that's what we do. Like today we're on a podcast, but usually we're like in the trenches, rolling up our sleeves and doing the work.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it alone. Come to events, network, plug yourself into the community, become a part of it, and hopefully they take this as an invitation.
Absolutely. Tiam, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks for watching this In Time Tech podcast. If you'd like to learn more about what we can offer you, please visit our website, intimetech.com, where you'll be able to see the different capabilities and technologies we could provide you in your business. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow us to get more amazing content like this. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.